Good morning, collective. I had a video that I was doing before, but somehow the audio didn't come out on it, so I'm redoing this one. Um, this one is basically about just the safety of your children, uh, spiritual safety. It's about to get to summer, so they're going to start wanting to be having some freedom with their friends and things like that. So, they're going to want to be, having their freedom and things like that. So I just basically wanted to just say a bit about safety around this time. We do know that there's a lot of things, a lot of distractions going on in this world, a lot of things as far as warfare and political upheaval and things like that. And so, right now at this time, spiritually, it's a lot of things going on. Um, a lot of things that can be very difficult to understand when you may be a younger person. And so it's important that parents and older people are available to be able to put such things into perspective as best they can. We all know that there's so much craziness going around. Sometimes we have no words for it. So I mean, when it's crazy, crazy is crazy. And if you're not crazy, then you can't fathom how to, decipher it. So um that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to talk about being able to be there for your children around this time of real spiritual warfare type things going on, politically and all of that. So I just wanted to just say that it's important as parents to make sure that your children are, you know that you talk to them, that you are always, the stable lighthouse for them to be able to have someone to talk to, someone who is solid and always there. Now, I understand how it is when people have to work, but right now, post COVID, the good thing about it, people can find different ways of working. There's parents that can find ways to work at home where they have more eyes on their children and what's going on with them, so that's one thing that's much more available for parents, and being able to be around their children and being able to see some of the things that they may be getting into, and be able to safeguard some of that, especially when you have teenagers. Teenagers are very difficult because they are in between thinking that they're adults and they know everything, and still being kids and don't know half of what they think they know. So that's the situation with them. So they can be very difficult. Teenage years can be very, very difficult years to deal with children. And some people, and even, they don't have a lockdown on that. There's older people that still, you know aren't still, fully developed up here, and they're walking around like they're 5-year olds. So age it can be just a number. I mean, there's children that I know that seem to be more adept mentally than grown-ups, so, but I'm just saying, you just have to be able to assess your child and what is their level of maturity at this period of time. That is something that parents need to do when it comes down to being able to assess the um, the brevity that you give your kids and the leverage that you give them in which they flow, places and things like that. Because right now, when it starts getting hot, they're going to want to go to parties. They want to go here and there. They want to go at different hours. They want to go to parties that aren't even scheduled. You don't even know where they're going. And this is where I'm saying this is the time where you're still the parent. Let them know what the boundaries are. And especially if they live with you, you know, you you let them know what the boundaries are. Those who don't live with you have the brevity to do whatever it is that they choose to do. But I know even with my kids, some of them don't live with me, but they still, if they're going out of the country or they're going somewhere, they're letting me know, because I established that early. I need to know where you are. They've known that from when they were young. So I mean, some of them, it's like you don't have to tell them anything, and others, it's like they just want to just drive you crazy. It's like, they want to act like they don't know. You know what I'm saying? But you have children that have all different kinds of characters, and you have to just assess them as that, as they are naturally themselves. So the thing is, it's just important to be able to be there for them, you know, especially like I said, in these times, um, grown-ups are sometimes, we don't tend to understand that we need to pay attention to our kids as they go through these different stages. Sometimes we think when they get like teens that, oh, it's okay, let me just take my hands off of a bit. And depending on your child and their maturity level, sometimes that's not the best thing to do. Okay. And we don't, during these period of times, you can have all during the year, you hear crazy stories about what can happen to kids, and they can be hanging out with so-called friends, and your kid, for some reason, friends don't know what happened to them or something like that. So these kind of things, I'm like, you have to stay up on your children, and also speak to them about spiritual things, because frequency with individuals is very, very important. People who are of higher frequency tend to be more positive, more caring, and all of that. And those who are of lower frequency tend to be those ones that want to take chances, and take chances with themselves and take chances with others. And so you have to be able to assess and gauge these things. Now, I know you can have friends of all different types, but the thing is, you have to know how far you want to go and how far you want to let somebody else take you. And sometimes, when you have friends that are of more of the rebel type, they will tend to not be very clear or open about what their intentions are. And then thereby, if you don't know certain things, you can go hang around that person, and that person has some intentions to do something rebel like, and then it can get you into trouble as well because you are with them. So it's always important to let your children know that there is such thing as guilt by association. So if you are hanging with somebody that has some intention, say for instance, just goes into a store and decide they want to pick up or lift something and come out, and you're with them, and then the owner of the store catches them, guess what? Your kid is going too, because they were with that person. They may not have had the intentions or even knew the intentions of this person, but this person did something and they were with them. So guilt by association, you know? So these things are the scenarios you have to let your kids know, you know? It's okay to have friends that's all of different kinds, but you have to know the intentions of people, and you have to know how much you want to put yourself into jeopardy around them. Okay? So sometimes it's better to not have friends that you know are going to do things like that. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. If you have children, keep reins on them and don't worry about, oh, I'm a nosy parent. I'd rather be a nosy parent than be one that don't know nothing, and then next thing you're finding out all sorts of craziness about your kid, or your kid gets held up in something and you're like, what's going on? You don't want to be one of those types. So I do know that children and teenagers, they don't tell you everything. I know that. I know that. I mean, but the thing is, try to be one that knows as much as you can. Like, say for instance, if they're going out to a party or something like that, spur of the moment, and they're saying, oh, this one just said we're going to a party. Okay, well, where is this party? I need to know the location. um who are you going to be with? I need to know your number and at least another contact number for a friend or something, somebody that you're going to be with. I have to know those things, because in the event, especially if you're under my household, I have to know this in the event something happens and you're out there somewhere. You know, I have to know these things. These things are for your safety and for safeguarding you. So it's important that your parent knows these things. And as a parent, you have the right to demand these things, because it's going to fall on you if something happens to your kid and they're out there. The first thing they want to say, well, shouldn't you have known this stuff? How is it that you didn't know? Then it's going to be like, well, how is it that I didn't know? You know, you need to check on your kids. They have these cell phones and all of these things. A kid who's not going to be doing something crazy is not going to feel like they have to hide everything from you. Okay, that's one thing. They know that there's certain things that they shouldn't be doing. So if they start hiding things from you, you know that there's something that you need to be looking at. Okay? That's a telltale sign right there. That's a red flag right there. Okay? Another thing is, say for instance, I just want to also let you know that this kind of spiritual warfare it's not always just in your face. It can be very subtle. Like I said, your friend could just have a friend that, say for instance, your child is now doing after school employment or something, and or they're doing like after school. Okay, so therefore you may know the confines of the time in which they may get out of school and go to this program, but you may not know the confines of when they get out of there. Okay, because they still want to gravitate around, and very often they're around wherever they get employed. Sometimes they want to have friends around them too who are also employed, so they're going to go gravitating around together. Okay, so in these kind of circumstances, if you have one of those kids that's one of those that likes to be around the rebel kinds, and they're a little bit, naive in certain ways, but then also they don't want to play like they the innocent type. Those are the ones you really have to be careful with, because they will be the ones sometimes will be the one who gets caught up into something, because you know they want to play like they miss goody two shoes, but they are also um interested in gravitating to that wilder side of things, and very often the children that are the ones that tend to magnetize a whole lot of friends around them and things like that. Those are the ones that are very often the smartest, the brightest ones, the ones that care about their friends, all of that. And you're going to get those mixed up, the low vibrational kids in there too, because everybody gets gravitated and magnetized to the light, and the very dark ones do more than anything. So they're going to want to gravitate to a kid like that, and then basically put them in a circumstance that messes them up a bit. So sometimes that's what your kids have to be aware of. and being naive. You have to be aware that you're going to have people around you who like you, who genuinely like you, and those who kind of like have that, eye of envy and really don't like you and want to see you fall. So you have to be able to teach your children about that, because sometimes kids, when they're very naive, and like I said, they're the type that care about their friends. They have friends that if they are not doing well, then that's your kid is the one that they come to talk to vent, to do all of those things. And these are usually the kids that people like to gravitate around, and the good and the bad want to come towards them. So your child has to be the one that you make them know that that is the way the world works. And you have to be extremely careful, because there are, very, very diabolical people out here who, um, you don't know parents of people either. And very often, you may raise your child a certain type of way, and like I said, they magnetize all types to them. So there you're going to get other children who don't have parents that are along the same lines as how they teach their children. Some kids get a whole lot, but then their parents don't have time for them. So therefore, they're lacking in the attention and things like that. So that comes out in all sorts of ways with children when that's the circumstance. Okay. They get really rambunctious, and they're like all over the place, and, they're disrespectful very often, and they're entitled sometimes, so it's like you have to, school your children. And like I said, be the lighthouse that continues to stand there whenever, and the person that they can come and talk to about anything. If they have a friend that is having difficulties at home, they should be able to talk to you about that. That's the way I was with my some of my children. They felt free enough to talk to me about certain things. I mean, I'm not, when they got older, not everything, but you know it's important to be there to make sure that they have that solid foundation. And even if they have a sibling that they choose to speak to about certain things, that they won't necessarily divulge everything to you, that's okay too, as long as you know that when anything goes down, you could be able to talk to that other sibling and say, hey, so do you have a phone number? Do you have this or that? Maybe they may leave it with their brother or sister and not leave it with you for some reason. But just be able to do whatever it is you need to do to make sure that you keep reins on your children. I mean, especially in this period of time. This summer is going to be crazy. I mean, there's a lot going on. We already have seen precursors to everything that's going on in the news and all of that kind of stuff. Yes, it's important to know something about that, but don't let it take you over where you're like, oh my God, the world's going to end tomorrow type of thing. Don't do that to yourself, because if you do that and you worry that way, then you will not do what it is that's necessary for you to do to live your life in the best way possible. Okay? So what I am saying is that the reason why I came on here this morning is to just give you a little bit of a tap, to let you know, continue to watch over your most precious resources, and that's your children, and continue to let them know that they mean a great amount to you. So if you are asking about certain things, it's not that you're trying to indulge into their lives and be nosy, but as if they are children where they are living with you, then you have a right to know their whereabouts. And it's also to safeguard them. Okay? That's very important that that is conveyed. Um, So your children do have to have spiritual discernment, about those in which they engage with, and it's important that you show them and let them know. Give them some scenarios, okay? So if like I said, the thing with if someone goes into a store and they just decide they're going to lift something and you're with them and you have no idea that they have that even in their mind to do, and then the owner catches the kid that is with your friend, they're going to go as well, unless the person is cognizant enough to say, okay, well, you were with him, but you don't have anything, so you can go. Very often when people lump two peas in a pod. If they see you're together, then they're going to assume that you were going to do the same thing, whether if you have something on you or not. So that's why it's very important to be able to assess and know these things. Don't let your kid be so naive that they don't know these kind of scenarios and things that can happen. And then if something does happen, they have no idea as to how to deal with it. There can be lots of scenarios. Like I said, you can say again, there's a kid that goes to after school. Now they have friends that they hang out with after that. You're a kind of parent that you like to know when your kid is getting out from where they're getting out from. You want phone calls and you want this, and that. Okay. You got a kid that your child, it is your understanding and your way of doing things. You don't like piercings, you don't like belly things, you don't like tattoos, you don't like any of that. And then you find out by happenstance that your child has gone somewhere after school and went and did a piercing or something, a belly piercing or a tongue piercing, without your knowledge. And you just happen to find that out because maybe either you find the earring that fell out, or they're talking and you see this thing bobbling around in there. And then the question comes to be, you cannot fault somebody else's child for providing the impetus for your kid to do that. Okay? Your kid was not hogtied and pulled to go and get those things done. Your child just wanted to do that against your will. And that's when you have to also know, okay, you're not dealing with an angel. Okay? Understand, this is the normal things that sometimes kids do, and they will go and do things, without your permission. And then it comes to be that, okay, that's done, but my rules. So it's either you take it out and you let it close up, or you let them have it. Now that's something that's not so harmful, but it's just the way sometimes people tend to look at you if you're somebody who has, a lot of piercings, or you're a young girl with the tongue thing in and you got your belly button showing. Then there's a degree of looseness that people tend to think. And that is where you have to convey these things to your children. Okay? It's a degree of what society begins to get in their heads about you when they don't even know you, simply because you have something that can be seen as something that may be a little promiscuous. Okay? So you have to let your children know, okay, if you're going to wear tattoos, this is the thing That can people can have their preconceived ideas about you, not know you. They could just look at you and they have ideas. These are the things that, just like if you go to a particular job, if you want a particular job, there's certain ways in which you can't show up. You cannot still to this day go in with a tongue piercing and all that kind of stuff and go for a legal job or something like that. I mean, that may be still, it depends on what office you're working for, but an office that wants to be very highly professional is not going to allow you to wear that. Okay? These are things that people have to know, children have to know, that there are certain ways in which you have to present. So these things are important. And so that has also to do with how people will perceive your frequency. You know, you can be the nicest person in the world and just happens to like to, wear these things because you like the way they look. And it's not that you're being promiscuous or you're doing anything, but you just like to adorn yourself in that way. People will still have their preconceived ideas and they will assume that you're somebody who's loose and is just willy-nilly with yourself. And that may not even be the case. So these things are, things that you have to talk to your children about. So, like I said, this conversation that I decided to have with you guys is primarily because I had already done one and it didn't come out, and I just felt compelled to do this because it's like every year young people are go through so many things that can be avoided because they are naive to things, or a lot of kids lose their lives over things because of the being naive as well, and going with people and friends who take chances, and they're thinking it's fun, but sometimes taking chances for somebody can be going in the car after drinking alcohol, taking your friends and just going joyriding around. And that can cost somebody their life. So things like this, you have to be able to talk to your children about things like that, talk to them about the type of people that they're around, but also most importantly, keeping reins on their whereabouts. I mean, there's a lot of children that wind up going online and talking to strangers and going places that they think their parents don't know. And then a lot of young ladies find out there's older men that are there and then they don't come back. So you have to be very, very, very careful because people they catfish young girls online. Then they traffic them and all sorts of things. And it's because the parents are not aware, and then the kids are thinking that they're being smart and clandestine and sneaking, and not thinking that what you are doing can cause you to not come home ever again. So it's important that you speak to your children about these things. I mean, you can also commensurate to their age, show them this video, because these things are very, very important, that young people must know these things, and not feel embarrassed about anything, but just know that they are young and they don't know everything. I mean, when I was 15, everybody thinks that they know everything when they're 15, but you don't know the half of what goes on in this world and the half of how evil people can be. And even now with the computers and everything, the way things are, people can do AI, do all sorts of things, and you think you're talking to some young boy, and then you go off somewhere and you find out it's some old perverted man that's you're not going to get home again. Okay? So or vice versa. It could be a boy. You never know. You never know. It's just this world is very, 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 very can be very diabolical. A lot of things are going on that are not good, and children have no idea the half of how diabolical and how dark it can be and how dark it can get. I mean, people do, all sorts of things, animals and everything. It's just crazy what goes out here with even pets and animals. It's people stealing and sacrificing and doing crazy things. So these are things that are dark in this world, and we have to talk to our kids commensurate to their age so they're aware of these things. Even when you're at school, kids giving people giving kids things so that they can sleep all day, and then you find out on the news that there's things that, and then the kid might say, oh yeah, that's what they're giving me at school, and you have no idea that they've been giving your kids something to sleep with, and there's some kind of uh, on the market thing that you don't even know, is going in your child's system and knocking them out most of the day. So there's these people are not working, and they just got your kid knocked out sleep most of the day. So people take liberties to do all sorts of things. So I'm talking about this is with young children, but I'm just saying with anything, be very, 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 very careful and cognizant of your children. They're your most precious resource. You don't want to lose them for anything. Okay? And so that is all I have to say for this morning. I bid you a wonderful morning, collective. Like I say, grab your kids, kiss your kids, love your kids, let them know that they're loved, And sometimes, you know what? Even though you do that, sometimes they have their own perceptions about how they feel, you know? And you can only be you. And you can only be the mother that you can be. And after you've done that, it's up to them to do whatever it is that they do after you've done what you need to do as a parent. Nothing that you can do after that. Okay? Just do your best and love your children. Let them know that you love them. Do the best you can by them, because this world is not an easy world. And sometimes children can never understand what the parent goes through unless they go through it on their own. And even then, you can never know exactly what your parent has gone through. You can never know that. So they're not perfect. Understand that and realize that. And you can only love people for how they are, and just understand that everybody has their own things that they've probably gone through, and you have to take that in consideration if they don't come out to be the best parent. You have to know that there's a part of that took place there that you're not aware of, and you have to give them that grace. Okay, you have to give them that grace. Okay, so that's all I have to say this morning. Just have a wonderful, wonderful morning. Saturday morning. Enjoy your children. Enjoy your family. Enjoy just being together and doing the best that you can do together. And never take those times for granted. Okay? All right. So you have a wonderful morning. And God bless. Goodbye.